Marxist professor insists that grades and merit-based education promote the evils of capitalism. In spite of all this preening nonsense, I'll bet he's in no hurry to do away with his meritocracy tenure. I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie, I think, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms, college campuses around the world. Today, we're talking about a professor of sexuality studies, yes, that's a thing, who says fathers trying to protect their daughters from teen sex are just, quote, vaginal gatekeepers. I think about that character of Idris Elba in Thor movies, right? The big gatekeeper, right? Plus, a poll finds the majority of college students will be voting for the Democrat presidential candidate who offers the most free stuff. But we start with a New York professor, an economics professor, God help us, calling for the removal of academic grades because they represent capitalism in action. Yes, I am not kidding you. According to Emeritus Professor of Economics Richard Wolfe, the capitalist economic system has major failures. It generates extreme socially divisive inequalities in wealth and income. Despite its obvious evils, however, Wolfe argues that capitalism survives almost exclusively because of ideology. And one of the main ideologies that supports capitalism is teaching kids by the way of grades. From the time these kids are kindergartners to the time they graduate with economics degrees from AOC, right? Boston College, right? Until that time, they're getting graded and they get promoted if they know things. If they actually learn in first grade what first graders learn, they're, on the basis of merit, promoted to second graders. And this, of course, for Professor Wolfe, is nothing more than enshrining evil capitalist dialectic in these children.
Yes, well, he's complicit in it then. Why is he a professor? Because this is exactly what he is doing in his classroom. And even though he's an emeritus professor, he was a professor at University of Massachusetts Amherst from 1973 up until very recently. He's actually still teaching more courses. He's teaching right now at the New School in New York City, where he lives in Manhattan, of course. So he's still in the classroom and he's still giving out these grades, but is he doing this with protest every time? Is he saying, I apologize, dear student?
As we see so often, like with environmentalists, Al Gore needs his private plane.
Oh, yeah,
Leo
of course
DiCaprio needs his private plane. The little Swedish girl she needs her team to fly over here on planes. It's all just such hokum. And the fact that he taught at University of Massachusetts Amherst, one of the most radically mindlessly liberal arts colleges, and it makes Oberlin look like Hillsdale, for God's sake. Take it with a grain of salt. But when I see this, let this sink in for Mom and Dad. Where do you find Marxist economists? You don't really find them anywhere but universities. It's not a thing. Marxism and the economy are kind of oxymorons, right? They don't really go together. Right? That's like saying a chaste sex teacher, right? A sex education teacher who's taken a vow of chastity. They don't kind of go together.
Exactly.
You wouldn't really listen to them. Other than universities, do you take people like this seriously?
Oh, you take them very seriously because New York Times Magazine has named Wolfe America's most prominent Marxist economist. He is so strong. And he's in his 70s and he's still doing this. So clearly he has not given way of all that capitalism that was afforded to him.
The New York Times. That's like saying the world's most foremost paraplegic tap dancer. Doesn't really work.
Picturing it. Okay. He also says that grades also function as a major foundation in support for the meritocracy. The merit ideology functions as a crucial defense mechanism for capitalism, given its failures. The U.S. idea of meritocracy asserts that one can quantitatively rank individuals' qualitative capacities. Ooh, he's quantitative and qualitative.
Sure you can.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, I know that I quantitatively and qualitatively suck at math.
Yes,
I know because I can't do it. When you put a math problem in front of me that you've taught me for about 2 weeks and I can't perform it, that is a failure of mine. It is not the capitalist system. It is not corporations coming for me. It is not somehow the environment-destroying right-wingers. It's my own failure, and possibly the failure of my teachers who spend all their time teaching me Marxist economics instead of teaching me math.
Yeah, and he's been, you'll see him around. He was just on Fox Business
Of course.
Not too long ago, actually talking about this with people. And depending on how you view everything, you could see, yes, there are some viewpoints and some things you could argue with him about and agree with him about the grade system and how it works in classrooms on a college campus.
Yeah, but whoever argued that grades were the only measure of a student? When was that argument ever made? It's ridiculous. I mean, what I hate about these Marxists is that, notice what they do. They start from the irrevocable premise that we all understand that capitalism sucks, it's failure, it hurts people. Don't even bother to explain anymore what they mean by that. And now what they're doing is they're micro-picking at every aspect of American culture to say, that proves patriarchy. That proves, right? It's all capitalism's fault. What do we keep hearing? That the fault of environmentalism is capitalism's fault, right? And so what are we doing? We're going after capitalist countries. We're not going after non-capitalist countries. Even though many non-capitalist countries are polluting in great measures, got to come out. Because global capitalism is the problem that bothers the progressive left more than anything else. It's the single biggest thing besides religion standing in the way of their one world government schemes. They can't stand it. And so in the same way that environmentalism is blamed on everything that the progressives don't like, so too, everything that the Marxists don't like is a result of this. And so we start with schools and grades and meritocracy, right?
Well, also...
and it's not just grades. It's merit, right? The idea that based on your merit, you could argue about the grade thing all you want, but it's the merit thing, that we shouldn't strive for or recognize or reward merit. I mean, that, my friends, is the walking, talking definition of socialism, right? You're really good at your job. I suck at it. We have the exact same job. At the end of the day, I get everything you get. You work hard. You stay later. You're brilliant at what you do. I'm not, but you and I get the same thing, right?
Dang it.
That's true. That's how you kill meritocracy.
All right. Well, also to blame in all of this are those protective dads.
Oh, man.
We have a professor named Eric Sprankle. Eric Sprankle says that protective dads are creepy and they are vaginal gatekeepers. There's stories back from May when, prom was happening all across the country. And Eric Sprankle, who's a professor of sexuality studies and psychology at the University of Minnesota, Mankato, he's also a sex therapist. He argues that fathers are creepy if they protect the chastity of their daughters during prom season. And basically this started because he said, that's the take the photo with the shotgun and the dad holding the shotgun or something, and the innocent boy who's scared out of his mind anyway with the prom date. So Sprankle took to Twitter, because that's where all these dang professors go, and lamented. He says, it's prom season, which means dads assume the unnecessary and unwanted creepy role of vaginal gatekeepers for their daughters while threatening violence against teen boys. Good times.
Unwanted, unnecessary. How do you know that? Who are you to dictate to a dad how he should look after his daughter? What gives you the right to decide? I wonder if this guy has kids. I wonder if Eric Sprankle, does he have kids?
Oh, no. Well, Eric Sprankle, here's what we need to know about him. His Twitter profile says that he hails Satan. He's satanic.
Well, there you go.
Cats, secularism, and Marilyn Manson. He also gives out weekly reminders on his Twitter feed. One that wasn't too long ago. It says, weekly reminder, casual sex can be healthy. Sex and love aren't synonymous. BDSM doesn't have to include pain. Reducing military spending could support healthcare access to all. And be kind to spiders.
There you go. And so this little man cave boy, this Herman Munster child, this is Eddie Munster apparently, right? With all of his likes and dislikes. Who's the creepy kid on the Addams Family?
Which one?
Wednesday's brother.
Wednesday's brother.
Pugsley.
Yeah.
This is Pugsley. Pugsley Addams, right? With his Hail Satan garbage. Again, the arrogance of this. And notice, by the way, in many of the families I know, mom is every bit the creepy vaginal gatekeeper that dad is, right? Moms, too, don't want to see their daughters on prom night ravaged. But notice how Eric has no commentary for them.
Can we have Katie's story time?
Katie's story time.
So Katie's story time. My father's kind of like this, but he actually did the opposite. So on my wedding day, he decided to have fake guns and pointed the gun at my fiance, now husband, saying, take her. It was the opposite. Take her because...
Not a shotgun wedding.
It was the opposite. Take her. You must marry her, because he claims that my grandfather did the same to him and forced him to marry my mother. And it's
funny to me, too. For all of his woke social justice creepy kind of goth existence. What makes him a vaginal gatekeeper? Because he's playing one.
Well,
he is a white male who has no kids, yet he is playing gatekeeper to the vagina. He's just opening the gate.
Correct.
BDSM doesn't have to be painful.
Yeah.
Sex and love aren't the same thing. You are being a gatekeeper. What dad says, keep closed until you're over 18, which is not an irresponsible thing for a dad to say, is for him, none of your business. Let's start getting him sexualized at age 3.
Okay, so we're going to go to a poll that shows, shockingly, students prefer Democratic candidates who have the most socialist of all the policies. And there they are, our friends Bernard Sanders and Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren herself. So this is an ongoing poll that they keep continuing to take, showing that students more and more are supporting those candidates who have the most socialist views. And the Chegg election tracker used the College Pulse to survey more than 1,500 students. They found at this point that about 29% of students want Sanders, which is actually lower. It had peaked at 33% back in March, and 22% want Warren. So 29 and 22, that's over half. So that's what's happening.
And this is pretty. Go back to our first story about the Marxist economist who you only find in universities, right?
Yep.
You don't find them anywhere else. No one else wants anything to do with them. Yet there you have them. And that's the object lesson. Kids, when you sign up for economics in American universities, the odds are really good you're going to get somebody who doesn't like economics. You're going to get somebody like this Professor Wolfe who wants to unmake economics, or you're going to get somebody like Professor Sprankle, right, who wants to burn it all down in his weird Gothic way. The idea that you're going to struggle with this, little kids now, all they know is the word socialist, but they don't know what it means.
Oh, correct.
And they don't know its history.
Absolutely. They know none of this. All they know is Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, they want to give us free college. They want to do all this student debt relief. They just want to give everything for free. So I'm going to vote for them. That's all they know. And they said that 70% of students would vote for any of the Democrats instead of President Trump.
It doesn't matter. And
doesn't matter.
They don't even know who they are. As long as they've got, in fact, if Donald Trump changed in midstream and ran in 2020 as a Democrat, these idiots would vote for him over Republican Donald Trump.
Well, and the thing is, they have no idea that Donald Trump used to be a Democrat, that he chummed around with it.
No idea about tens of millions of dead, no idea about lowering overall achievement, opportunity, and none of that stuff. And this is, again, a living, breathing indictment of how we are politicizing the classroom.
Yeah, and just so you know, only 23%, you would think maybe 30%, then only 23% of the students said they would vote for Trump. The other 7% said, I'm just not going to vote.
I'm amazed that you found 23, in spite of the ongoing indoctrination process that begins now in elementary school. I am stunned that 23% would actually admit that they would vote for Donald Trump.
Unless they're trying to do what college kids do, being like, I'm so cool, I'm just going to not go with the crowd and say Donald Trump. We don't know. We'll see once the election hits, 2020. We have plenty of time to see what actually will play out, because how many of these kids even know where their polling booth is?
Right, and the conclusion by the pollster is if you're trying to connect with college students, you should really be focusing on what issues are important to them. In other words, college kids want socialism, so give them more of it. That's your recommendation. College kids want socialism, so let's just give them more.
I'd call that a full lid for today. As always, please share this episode and subscribe to the free audio podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. Visit drdukeshow.com and click on any of the platforms to subscribe for free $99.
And that's it. We'll see you next time at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for another episode of this here Dr. Duke Show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. And until next time, my friends, stay educated. Educated. He is the most interesting man in the world.